Day 24 reflections. Bind earthly problems and lose heavenly solutions. We saw yesterday that in Matthew 16:19, Jesus is saying, those who live with a heavenly perspective, who walk in the ascended life, they know what is already bound and loosed in heaven, and they enforce the same on earth. We know what to bind on earth: sickness, poverty, broken marriages, division, addictions, deception. These things we recognize easily because we live in a broken world. But what happens in Luke 11:24-26 when a house is cleaned, swept, and left empty after the demons leave? When it is just empty, the enemy comes back with seven evil spirits, worse than before, because nothing was put in its place. That is the danger of binding without loosing. If you drive darkness out and you don't replace it with light, you have created an empty space that invites the enemy back. So, binding and loosing in practice. Let's say I am praying for someone, and the Lord reveals a spirit of deception. I should not just stop at binding deception. I go further. I pray, Father, I loose or release the spirit of revelation on this person. I release clarity of heart, clarity of mind. Let them see what they have never been able to see before. That's how I pray. That is spiritual authority. So we don't stop at sweeping the house, we furnish it with God's presence. When the Lord shows me something, say an area where a demonic stronghold exists, I can pray in line with heaven's will. Bind the stronghold, Lord, and loose or release the opposite reality of God's kingdom. I should pray for both. For example, if you're praying for someone who has been unjustly treated or punished, then you pray, I bind the spirit of injustice and I release the spirit of justice. When we bind the enemy, we are not binding him to a contract that we created. We are holding him and binding him to a contract God has already declared. Jesus said, you will trample serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy in Luke 19. That is authority. Emptiness always invite the enemy. They say empty mind is devil's workshop. Any emptiness, enemy invades. You don't want to clean out a spiritual space without putting something of the Lord in its place. Empty space attracts the enemy. That's why Eastern, Indian or Buddhist, that meditation is dangerous. If you see yoga and other meditations, it teaches you to empty your mind. But in the kingdom of God, meditation is about filling your mind with His truth, with His word. 2 Peter 1:3 says, His divine power has granted to us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Him. He has given all things needed for life and godliness. How? Through the knowledge of God. The more you know Him, the more access you gain to everything you need in life and in walking righteously. So when you bind carnality, demons, or worldly distractions, at the same time, you release spirit-led thoughts, words, and actions. It is really essential to practice both of these, both in your personal life and also while ministering to others. This means you are actually practicing ascended life. What you see in heaven, you come and release and replace in the areas you bind. Amen.